welcome to another Wednesday live oil painting session. Today we will be painting the portraits of a fellow member of the Billiards Academy, Streetlights Billiards Academy in Alexandria, Virginia, Yusuf. So shout out to you, Yusuf. Thank you for letting me paint your portrait. You can see his picture up there, top left. One of the I'd say he's definitely in the top 5 best pool players in the academy. I'd say top 5, perhaps even top 3. But thank you for letting me paint your portrait today. So let's go ahead and get started here. Welcome everyone. Daniel, thank you for the regards from Serbia. Uncle Earl, I'm not sure of another way other than YouTube currently, but we can figure some stuff out. Hey, hippie artist, Grace, Mark, L, Peace, Rose, welcome everybody. So I have the camera a little closer to the painting than I usually do. So I'm just experimenting with it for today to see how it works out. So in theory, you might be able to see a little bit better quality with the camera. I'm not sure how it will work. And the reason I did that is because one of the legs on my easel broke, and that easel lasted probably that easel is probably older than I am. So, or not easel, that tripod. The tripod is what broke. Um, just moving it, one of the legs, part of the leg snapped. So, could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I'm not entirely sure. Hey, Giselle, Peace Rose. What art movement emerged in New York in the 50s? You mean modernism? I would think it's modernism. Top of his head, somewhere over there, but that can move around. Oh, oil paint. We're back to basically my home territory, home turf here. Oil paint. We're working on an 8x10 linen lead primed toned neutral gray. Really nice surface to work on. Absolutely one of my favorite surfaces to work on is the lead primed. But yes, home turf. Back home, everyone. Hey, Rita. Thank you for joining. Yeah, it's toned. It's a toned neutral gray. And this was toned several months ago now at this point. Basic shapes for the eye sockets. Hey, Lewis. This is 8x10 inches. 8x10 inches. You actually can't see the blue colors on the corner here, and that's a decision I had to make. But I'll explain all the mixtures of the colors as I go. The reason I did that was, again, to try to like optimize the resolution of what you can see. Now we're going in with shadow shapes. I must tell you, I was not happy with the way that my painting turned out yesterday. The watercolor. Though watercolor is new to me. So that's why I said in the beginning, this is like kind of my home turf. So I'm happy to be back here. Now he's looking up relative to us. He's a lot taller than me. So when I took the picture, I had to stand on my tippy toes to take the picture of Yusuf. So the ear is actually going to be a little bit lower relative to us. Ear is going to be about there. Cast shadow. Angle of the eyes, somewhat like that. The top of his forehead is about here. Jaw is there. Mouth, of course, that's going to move as we go on. Now we're going to change brushes here and we'll mix some skin tone. Lead primed hippie artist is it can be bad if you accidentally get it on your, if you get the lead paint in your system, but typically the lead prime, it 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 already provides a pretty firm layer of paint. So when you paint onto this, it's pretty much like you can have a much nicer film as opposed to an acrylic primed. But you could do the acrylic primed as well. It doesn't matter that much. And we're starting this like a duotone. That was one of the trivia questions yesterday. Duotone. Feels nice to use the oil paints again. I don't know the backstory of Indian Yellow, but I'll probably look it up. Maybe something I shouldn't know, but I'll look it up. Hey, Melody, you can't paint with oils in your studio because you have pilot light on. Oh. Yeah, water mixable is pretty good. Whenever I use water mixable, I use Cobra. This is the brand that I like to use for water mixable. And just to show you that it is interchangeable, you can use the water mixable. So, see, this is the Cobra. You can use water mixable with the regular oil paints. So, check this out. You can add this directly to the regular oil paints and it's fine. It'll work just fine. So you don't need to worry about the hazards of oil paints because the technology these days is just vastly improved since, say, 100 years ago. So we're going in with these very simple shapes. Drawing with the paint. And we did draw with the paint as well, with watercolor. But there was one incident where I had to move the mouth, and that caused some trouble yesterday. So it's nice to be back to the regular stuff here. This is what the channel was built on. Has something to do with cows. Uh-oh. That's not good. They put a cow in a typical situation, poor cow. No, this was already um glued or put onto this. This is a Centurion. So you can see I reused it. So there's some stuff on the back from those stickers, but this doesn't harm anything. But it's a Centurion oil primed, and then I lead primed it afterwards. Covering pretty quickly here. So see, you can use the water mixable with the regular stuff. Of course, when you use water mixable with the regular paints, it becomes just regular oil paint. But just so you can see that the quality is pretty good. Now I'm going to be extra cautious with painting any mouth from this point on. I will put it slightly higher up than need be. And this is the stage of the painting where it can look intimidating, kind of like a robot. So that's just something you just gotta work through. Don't be scared of this stage. You could probably already tell I'm more comfortable with oil paint than any of the other materials. I do have 16 years experience with this material. If you mix water mixable with normal oils, it loses its water mixable properties. Yes, yeah, yeah. You can't go from water mixable back to traditional, or you can't go from, yeah, you can't mix it with the regular stuff and then turn it into, go back to water. But yeah, I'm just showing you that you can still mix it. And I haven't really used any mineral spirits with the skin tones anyway. So you would have the same painting experience up to this point. I did thin out the paint to draw with the raw umber, but I didn't have to do that. It's already quite thin on its own because it is a very transparent color. So again, shout out to you, Yusuf. Thank you for letting me paint your portraits here on the internet. Hey, Lewis, that's a quote from a song. Pretty fun to build with the oil paints. Very forgiving material. And if you want to get started with painting, oil paints is one of the best ways to start, but you can also use acrylic, and you'll see that tomorrow. Let's see. Oh, I'm thinking that that quote has something to do with the cows. I'm thinking. The ear is lower relative to the eyes. That's really important. And over the years, I've kind of almost always messed that up when I paint someone in perspective. He's looking up, um, uh, lower relative to him. Oh, huh. Yeah, kind of the opposite of my experience, or kind of the opposite of Sargent's experience. He said every time he paints a portrait, he loses a friend. But every time I paint a portrait, it's always like I'm gaining a friend. I've got a lot of support in that billiard academy. I mean, I'm a horrible pool player, but all the support I get from everyone there is just fantastic. And I do want to do a painting there, a live stream painting there at some point. Painting from real life. That'll happen. All in time. But that's my goal, is to paint people that I met. That's why I oftentimes get asked, why don't I paint celebrities like some people do here on YouTube? And nothing against them. They're doing the right business smart stuff. But I prefer to meet the person and take the pictures myself, as opposed to just taking a picture off the internet and painting it. To me, this is what I live for: being able to paint, real people that I've met. Let's see. Lewis wrote, "Been listening to it. Thought it'd be funny to say it, catch you off guard." No worries. I appreciate the comment though. No worries. Yeah, it is a casual live stream. These are all pretty casual. No pressure. Hey, Shavu. Yes, portrait is my favorite subject. Absolutely. And portrait from life is my absolute favorite. But of course that costs a lot of money to pay someone to sit there for you. And I'm a full-time artist, so I gotta I gotta eat, right? So being able to pay models to pose isn't in my budget just yet. But we'll get there. Alright, take care, Lewis. Hopefully you can join again later on. Hey, Waldo. Oh, sorry, I mispronounced your name. Alwaludu. How many tones? Values, you mean? I typically keep it around 3 to 5. So right now, this is probably looking at about 5. 'Cause I'm moving around the surface pretty free, quite freely moving around. So I'm just kind of letting the shapes develop intuitively. Just letting it all develop intuitively. Like I usually say, this is kind of more of a podcast type of setup here, a painting podcast style video. But feel free to ask any art related questions. I'm always happy to answer. So how was everyone's day today? Anything fascinating happened today? And of course, I know what's going on with the hurricane. I hope that everyone is going to be safe and people evacuate places where they're supposed to evacuate. I have a couple of students in Florida, so I'm constantly trying to check up on them. By a couple, I mean one that I communicate with. So, Ellen, if you're here, let me know. I hope you're okay. I'm referring to you, Ellen. On the left, I know you can't see it. I have cadmium green, sap green, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, um, and black. Going with green and red, a little bit of yellow. Makes a nice kind of like off brown. Oh, thank you, Peace Rose, for sharing. Oh, we got 39. Thanks for counting that, or letting me know. So any oil painters in here? Shout out to any oil painters. I joke around with the wife about this idea of learning these 4 materials I've already learned a lot about oil paint, of course, but watercolor, oil pastel, soft pastel, basically just pastels, acrylic, these four, I guess technically five if you, which by the way, the vote is still out there. You can still vote for Friday to be either soft pastel or oil pastel for this week. Of course, there's been a lot of suggestions to alternate it, and we can do that too. But I thought it would be interesting to kind of invite people to choose. Thanks, Grace. Melody wrote, painting a white pumpkin with acrylics to look like flowers and leave it on my daughter-in-law's class. Oh, right. I'm actually supposed to paint a pumpkin soon. Who wants me to paint a pumpkin on a live stream? Because I typically paint a pumpkin, and it'll have to be with acrylic. I tried painting a pumpkin with oil paint one year, and of course it never dried. Which funny story about that pumpkin. Some of my students were there. I streamed it to my students, and that pumpkin, I painted a Rembrandt on it, and it ended up, of course, as all pumpkins do, dying. So I gave it to my mom, the Rembrandt pumpkin, and she left it in the yard, and as it decomposed, it created basically other pumpkins grew from that. So Rembrandt pumpkin kind of has a lineage now of other pumpkins. Well, that's kind of interesting. It's on my YouTube channel under community. Oh, it's under community. The vote for whether you want me to use soft pastels or oil pastels. The Mark L at the moment you paint with oils. Bought some pastels. They're great to use. The other materials are so low maintenance. Pastels are really low maintenance as well because you don't have to clean any brushes or whatever. And the oil pastel, it really looks like oil paint. If you buy that Senila or however you pronounce it brand. I actually just varnished the painting today, an oil painting, and there's no there's really no substitute for that varnished painting look. I believe you can varnish acrylics as well. I would use oil paint varnish for acrylics, but that's just me. No worries, Grace. Acrylics is totally fine. And in fact, I'm going to be doing a painting of Yusuf. Not on camera because it's going to take more than one day to paint, but of him playing pool. And I'm going to use acrylics for it, for the most of it. I may do the entire thing in acrylic. But acrylic is really practical, more practical than oil paint for studio works. Because it's just really low maintenance. Okay, so yes, you can varnish the acrylics. If you wash the pumpkin with vinegar, it will last much longer. Are you using the same backdrop or for your source I I took a picture of Yusuf and then I used that picture to um I outlined or I used a like tool where you turn the portrait into a sticker and then I added it onto another. But yeah, I'm gonna basically paint the same background that I chose for the picture. But yeah, oil paint so forgiving, so friendly. But you can yeah, you can do all this with acrylic. Just a slightly different technique, but you can get the same look basically with acrylic. Acrylic is like if acrylic was to talk to oil paint, acrylic would say anything you can do, I can do better. And then oil paint would say no, you can't. And then acrylic would say yes, I can. Yeah, but no worries. Oh, wall de loo. Take your time with one material, and let that be your main material as you're learning. But it is nice to explore the other ones. So, for example, if you're really into oil paint, then the it makes logical sense to use pastel. If you're really into acrylic, then it makes logical sense to use watercolor. So it doesn't have to be like one thing or the other. Now, if you're really into oil paint and you decide to try watercolor, then that's super tough. Trust me, I know. I know firsthand how tough that is. And it really helps you though. And it really helps you to be able to learn the different materials. But yeah, the wife and I joke around that I'm trying to become the Avatar. Anyone that's seen Avatar, the Airbender. So it's like learning all these materials. It's like somewhat trying to like be the Avatar. Earth bender, water bender, fire bender. So we're gonna be an oil bender, pastel bender, uh, watercolor bender. Gonna learn them all. Oh no, it's not a cloth. It's just a picture with like a flat background. But yeah, pretty old school setup, which is quite appropriate for oil paint, I think. I'm using a little cerulean blue for this color. Structure is more important at this point than anything else when you're working in this approach. But it's always good to have little elements of color. That's why I used this cerulean blue there. So Jeanette, you voted for the soft pastel? Yeah, of course we'll alternate, but just for fun, I just want to see what people want this week. A real old school type of approach to the painting, and real old school aesthetic as well. You know, Sargent would have probably painted somewhat similar, somewhat. Hey, Jorge D'Angelo, welcome. Hansel Dog, what's going on? Yeah, so Yusuf is the model Yusuf. Again, he's I'd say top five, if not top three, of the best pool players in the academy that I go to. Especially when it comes to like 9 ball, 8 ball. We try to get him to play one pocket more. Um, but he's also a fitness trainer. So pretty unique background there. Putting in shapes for the ear. Hansel Dog just taking a lazy day. That's all good. Nothing wrong with that. Treat yourself to some nice, relaxing, peaceful, lazy day stuff. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So using just 3 brushes right now. Light brush, shadow brush, background brush. And I'm wondering if the resolution's any better, but it's starting to hurt my neck. Like I can't see that, how my head is blocking it. I'm gonna have to do something differently tomorrow. Like I said, my tripod broke. One of the legs just fell off. Part of one of the legs fell off, so that's why the camera is closer to the painting. And we're creating the plane change for the nose, working a little more with the red. And that is the light brush that I'm using in the shadow, which is typically not a good idea, but I'm going to save the shadow brush for the accents. Like that. Alizarin in black. That's what I'm using there. So the Cobra white that we used there, just for the sake of demonstration, in comparison to the regular white, is the tinting strength is not as strong, which is not a bad thing. In some cases, that could actually be better. For example, if you are to use lead white, also known as flake white, or creminence white, it's the tinting strength isn't as strong, which is important for the middle stages, middle values. Yeah, super easy to control the range with these paints, and as you add them on, they kind of stay that way. That is, they're not going to dry darker or anything like that. And you don't have to worry about the timing of the layering or anything like that. Dark to light, light to dark, who cares? You could work any which way you want with oil paint. You could work wet into wet, you can work with layers. You can do pretty much anything you want with these. So I'm adding cerulean blue and white to create a gray. It's a touch of skin tone. I'm going to start to put in some information for the sclera, the white of the eyes. By the way, I don't prefer to use a glass palette. This is the glass palette by New Wave, brand called New Wave. Not very new anymore. It's been out for a long time. But I prefer the feel of using a wooden palette. Titanium white versus zinc white. Zinc white in the past was developed more for the finishing stuff, so to behave somewhat like lead white, but not having lead in its composition. Difference is that zinc white is a tad bit more fragile than titanium white. So you don't want to paint exclusively with zinc white. Though the manufacturers say that you can, I probably wouldn't risk it myself, but I'm sure you'll be fine. But it has the property of which you can use more of it without raising the values too much, which will allow you to have more control in the middle values, which is where all of the subtlety takes place, is in the midtones, the middle values. Obviously, this is still in a really early stage, but you can see that there's some plane changes already taking place there. And that's why, that's the difference between the two, is that titanium white has a stronger tinting power than zinc white. But zinc white has a history of being more fragile. So you don't want to use it in the earlier stages in oil painting. But thank you for the question. So still using the same three brushes. A little bit of sap green. It's a nice transparent green. I know you can't see this side of the palette, I apologize. And that's just because it's a smaller canvas. So just the geometry didn't quite work. But please don't think that the way that this painting looks, if it looks good at all yet, has anything to do with the colors. It doesn't have that much to do with the colors. So don't feel like there's this magic recipe to paint skin tones, and once you get it, it's like this best kept secret that nobody is telling you. It's really not. It's really simple. Burnt sienna white ultramarine blue will get you pretty much all of this. I just have the other colors and for convenience. And of course you can move much faster when you have different brushes. Light brush, dark brush, middle brush. Oh, thanks, Giselle. This is all just simple shapes of light and shadow and basic values. That's all. I have a lot more experience with oil paint, so I can move quite freely with it. I found last week that I had a similar experience with the oil pastels, though I probably wouldn't be this efficient with the oil pastels. Um, but I have much more experience with this material. So everything is just a tad bit uh, simpler for me, more simple. with all the experience. A little bit more cerulean blue. The useful color in oil paint and oil pastel. Cerulean blue. One of my favorite singers of all time. Her name is Vila, Veela. More like kind of like an EDM kind of music. But she has a song called Cerulean that always reminds me of Cerulean Blue. That would be a big uh, goal of mine would be to travel. I think she's in Canada. So to be able to travel and do paintings like this. I mean, I've said it throughout my entire YouTube career. Still not there, but maybe one of these years I want to go on tour and just paint, meet people and paint them. I would love to be able to paint like, I've said it before, like Jim Carrey or um, what Selena Gomez or all these people. But I the stipulations I want to actually be there to take the picture or have them sit for me and do these paintings. Just like Yusuf, he's a member of the academy. He teaches me a lot of cool shots in pool. So that adds, in my opinion, that adds something to the painting itself, to this whole experience. I always tell everybody the most difficult thing you can do is paint someone you know. So that's what we've been doing a lot. Tomorrow we're gonna paint a Nelson Shanks in acrylics. It's gonna be probably one of the more difficult things that you could do with acrylics. So I decided why not take on that challenge. Whether I bomb it or not, it's still gonna be a good learning experience. Hey Amber. Oh, thank you. Market and pay. Oh, you mean marketing, I think is what you mean. Yeah, I'm gonna start reaching out to some companies. There's one company in particular that a long time ago they sent me some acrylic paints to do a review. Back when I didn't really have that much experience with acrylics, but we managed to make the video anyway, and I think it's one of my top one of my most popular videos on my channel. So I'm gonna reach out to them, see if they wanna, collaborate or sponsor us or something. Because the name is Paul Rubens. They make oil pastels. They make oil paints, acrylic paints. I don't know if they make watercolors, but it would kind of make sense to take on a sponsor with all of this stuff we're doing here. But you can tell that this tone, the lead prime, it really absorbs the paint quite well. It takes on the paint really well. This is what lead primed linen is what Nelson Shanks painted on almost exclusively. I think his demos were on cotton canvases, but his finished stuff was on this very same material, and I can See why. Thank you. Peace Rose. Yeah, I hope so. We'll see what they say. So we got 5 minutes till 5 o'clock. So the break will be quite soon. Take a break, stretch, move my neck a little bit because this canvas is, I mean, the camera is a lot closer than I'm used to. So we're pretty much on schedule now. We're entering the subtleties phase of the painting. So Uncle Earl asked something about there's a way to join other than YouTube. I have an idea of like maybe putting like a barcode or something there with my Venmo information. Like if anybody wants to contribute anything to the channel and doesn't know how to use Super Chat or doesn't have Super Chat, like me, I personally don't even know how to use it. Um, you could basically tip me if you want with Venmo. And I'm thinking of setting up like a Zoom call, I guess it would be. Not video, but where you could talk to me. I could probably hear your voice. I could, but I would use my earbuds so that in case someone logs in there and starts causing a storm, I don't get demonetized on YouTube. It's a concept, though. I don't know how safe that is, having my Venmo stuff out there. But if you wanted to, chat like video, not video, but like audio chat, would be easier for me than having to read my comments. So that's an idea. Sometimes we have almost 50 people here. Other times we have less than 10. So it depends on the crowd, who's interested and stuff like that. So keep the shapes simple and easy, such that when the time comes to make changes, those changes are simple and easy to manage. With oil paint, that's pretty much all there is to it. You don't have to worry about how it dries or anything like that because it takes a long time to dry. Yeah, so let me know if you would be interested in that, having like a Zoom audio. You could talk to me through that. I think that will work on YouTube. I don't know. I have Zoom for my uh, Patreon, though with everything with the apartment, it's been kind of a little hectic with the scheduling. But I only have about 4 Zoom students at any time at the most. And it's mainly just me and Randy. Me, Randy, and Mark. Carol joins sometimes. But it would be nice to hear your voices. Okay, so we're at 5 o'clock, so we're going to take a break relatively soon. Then when we return, we'll get into subtleties. And we can start our subtle trivia. We're kind of already in the subtleties, to be honest, though. So we may have moved a little faster. But again, it's just because I'm more comfortable with the oil paints than with the other materials. Okay, so it's about that time. We will take a break. Anyone that may be new, there's a video that I play of my Shiba Inu, Hugo. Those of you that have been here for a while, I apologize. You're probably tired of that video. But like I said, I'm going to start selling paintings real soon. So I'm going to use the break time to show you what paintings that I'm going to have for sale and how much they cost and shipping and all that stuff. Because we definitely got to get rid of some paintings. There's a lot of paintings here. In particular, there's a lot of watercolor studies that I'm looking to start selling pretty soon. So be on the lookout for that pretty soon. We're going to take a break. Return in just a couple minutes. Hopefully you'll enjoy the video of Hugo. Once again, don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to. And we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Guess who's back? All right. On a side note, anyone that likes spicy crispy chicken, if you air fry I think I put 300 or yeah, 300 degree air fry chicken thighs, and you coat the chicken thighs with uh, con- uh whatever cooking oil you want. Put adobo breading and then a bunch of cayenne pepper powder, and yeah, air fry it for an hour. I think 300 or the upper 200 degrees. Man, that is some really good chicken. Oh man, I really like spicy chicken, but it's expensive. And I'm assuming air fryer is a little bit healthier. So that was good. That was really good. Though I kind of wish the cayenne pepper was a little bit spicier than that. I'm gonna have to buy maybe the powder, habanero pepper powder. That is some good chicken. Apologize to any vegetarians out there. So we have returned, and as soon as I returned, we lost. I think about what was it, like 10 people that just left as soon as I returned. So, whoops. Maybe I should have kept the video of Hugo there for you. Now that we're getting into the subtleties, we can start our subtle trivia. And we've got about 34 people here. So, trivia begins with let's see if I learned anything new. No, I don't really think I have. Um, let's talk about oil paint. Now, why am I using lead primed? And you can't really Google it. It's something that I said earlier. Though you could Google it, but you get different answers. This will be for 1 point, starting off with a difficult one. I mentioned it earlier, but why am I using a oil lead prime on this canvas, on this linen canvas? Yeah, air fryer is great. I like the air fryer. Yes, correct. The oil paint sits really well on top. That's a great way of simplifying what I was saying. The surface, the lead prime surface, it absorbs the paint. It takes the paint in really nicely. Okay, next question. For 1 point, oil painting related. What is the definition of painting fat over lean? For 1 point. What is the definition of painting fat over lean? And as I asked that question, I also welcome any art jokes. If you get me to laugh, you will also get a point. Anyone that may be new, the way that this works is 10 minutes before the stream ends, so about 6:50 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we select the winner. Right now, Grace is undefeated. So will anyone step up to the challenge to take on the undefeated champion of the subtle trivia? Also, feel free to look up a bunch of art related jokes, as you can also get points that way. Hey, Jeanette. Fat over lean the thickness doesn't actually have much to do with thick or thin paint. So close, close, close. But you can have a thick layer of lean paint or a thick layer of fat paint. So the thickness actually doesn't have much to do with fat over lean. So you wrote, Grace wrote means under dries first, being thinner. Not quite. Remember, it doesn't have to do much with how thin or thick the paint is. Not quite. Not quite. Close though. It's actually a very common thing, a misconception that it has something to do with the thickness or the thinness of it. No. No, 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 it doesn't. It does not. What did see, I did laugh. Hansel Dog gets that one. So what did the paint say to the brush? Stop brushing me off. That's funny. That's a good, okay, Hansel Dog gets a point for that joke. I did laugh. I did laugh with that one. Fat dries slower. Yes, that is true. Very, very true. So that is part of the definition. That is true. Alrighty. What did the art thief say to the museum curator? Give me all your Monet. Oh man, someone's on a roll. Alright, another point goes to Hansel Dog. So Grace, very close. Yes, fat does dry slower, and in contrast, lean dries faster. That is true. And that's the closest to the correct answer, so if no one says anything, then Grace will get that point. Remember, everyone, keep track of your points. Okay, so that is the closest to the answer, the definition of fat over lean. That is the closest, so that will be, I know what you mean, Grace. So that will be the point. Will go to Grace. And now I'll explain what it means, fat over lean. Okay, so let's define fat and lean. So A really easy way to think about it is pigment to oil. Pigment to oil. Giselle, yes, pigment oil to pigment ratio relates to cracking. Yeah, yeah, you're definitely reading my mind there. So, in the process of layering an oil painting, you need to consider the fact that oil paint dries relatively slow. So, a lean layer. Here's a really easy way to remember fat over lean. A lean layer is like a very strong muscular person. Lean layer is like a very strong muscular person. A fat layer is like a very not strong person, not highly physically fit person. So, if you have a very not physically fit person holding a physically fit person, they're probably going to drop. But if you have the really lean physique person holding up the less lean person, then that's going to work. So it's oil to pigment. So basically, the more oil you have, the fattier the layer it is. The fattier the layer is, the longer the paint takes to dry. So if you have a fast drying layer in the beginning, you have a more stable surface, which is why we use the lead ground in antiquity, because it is a very lean, sturdy surface where we can add pretty much almost anything over top of it. Hey Francisco, welcome, welcome. Let's see, what's an etch, a sketch artist's worst nightmare? An earthquake? Oh, oh, that makes sense. I had to think about it though. So, very close, but I had to think a little bit. I had to think a little bit. Fat over lean is, in my opinion, something that artists are a little too nervous about. So basically, don't start a painting with clove oil and finish it with um, don't start something with like walnut oil or clove oil, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. If you have any clove oil paints or walnut oil paints, use them towards the end of your paintings, not in the beginning. Okay, so next trivia question. What is, and for 1 point, what is an alternative to odorless mineral spirits that you can use to clean your brushes? What is an alternative to odorless mineral spirits that is safer for the air that you can use to clean your brushes? Oh, thanks, Grace. Yeah, these videos are not, I typically say this, but the videos are not, these streams are not intended to be completely instructional, but they do have some instructional stuff. But I'm also learning as well. So, I'm trying to create an atmosphere here where it's fun, it's interactive, it's consistent, and there's some learning that happens on both of our ends. But whenever the learning does happen, it's a really great thing. Giselle wrote, what did the student say when the art teacher asked her why she was staring at an empty piece of paper? She said, I'm drawing a blank. Okay, I did chuckle a little bit. So okay, that's a good one too. Drawing a blank, I get it. It's a blank. I didn't have to think about that. That's good. Very good. There's a point. Point there for the funnies. All right, Giselle, another point. Lavender, yes, lavender. You can use lavender. So, Jonah, yes, you can use an oil as well to clean the brushes. So that was a fairly open question. Next question. Relating to oil paint for 1 point. How long do you have to wait to varnish your painting with Damar varnish? That is traditionally, how long should an artist wait to varnish an oil painting with the traditional varnish, Damar varnish? Okay, Hansel Dog. Correct. 6 months is correct. Grace, so close, so close. 6 months. That is why GAMS, you have GAMVAR, which you can varnish when the painting is touch dry. GAMVAR is what I think most artists are using these days. Damar has a tendency to yellow, so it's an older varnish. Yes, that does depend on the thickness of the paint, yeah. But my question was more of a generalized one. Yeah, I've heard that some Van Gogh paintings are still not even fully dry yet. That's what I've heard. Next oil painting question. If you're painting in plein air, do you want your canvas facing the sun or not facing the sun? Next oil painting question. If you are painting in plein air, do you want your canvas facing the sun or not facing the sun? For 1 point. Peace Rosie, so you could have an assistant or friend that reads the comments to you if your wife is not home. Well, she's usually not home during the streams anyway. And I'm by myself. I could train Hugo to read them for me. I don't really have any assistants. I wish, but no assistants. Hansel Dog, no, you don't want your canvas facing the sun. Okay, Art, thank you. So Jonah, so close. Jonah and Giselle, so close. The point goes to Grace. If you're painting in plein air, you do not want your canvas facing the sun. Now, why is that? So Giselle wrote, with the sun, watercolor dries faster. That's true. With more, I guess, heat, it will dry faster. But that's why I kind of said with respect to oil painting, because I knew that there would be something with acrylic or watercolor. So, yeah, that was mainly for oil painting. Now, whoever can answer why is it that you don't want your canvas facing the sun for 1 point? Why is it that you don't, in oil painting, in plein air, you don't want your canvas facing the sun? Hey, Hansel Dog. Yes, I do varnish. Actually, I just varnished the painting right before the stream. Um, if anyone remembers the couple that I painted 1 week, the the uh, the couple that's engaged, they decided to purchase those paintings. So, of course, I'm not gonna varnish the pastel because you don't do that. But I varnished the oil painting today with Gamvor. So yeah, if I know I'm gonna sell, I will varnish oil painting. Let's see. Jeanette wrote, sun makes the colors appear lighter. That is, I need to think about this for a second. Yes, that is correct. I usually think about it the reverse. Teresa, so close. You end up with dark values all through the painting. So close, Teresa. But you and Jeanette said the same thing, just uh, opposite. But you said the same thing. So yes, so close, Teresa. The point goes to Jeanette. Sun makes the colors appear lighter. So as a result, yes, your colors end up being darker than you think. Correct, correct, correct. So close. Giselle, no, it has nothing to do with heat changing the paint. I mean, if it's that hot and it affects the oil paints, I don't advise you being outside and painting plein air. Probably would not be a good idea. Um, like someone trying to do an oil painting in Death Valley or something like that. Probably not a good idea. Varnish, Gamvar is typically ready to go in about 3 days. When you varnish a painting, question. For 1 point, Teresa, you prefer to go by Terry. Okay, Terry. For 1 point, when you varnish a painting, do you leave it flat or vertical? When you varnish a painting, do you leave it flat or vertical? When you varnish a painting, do you leave it flat or vertical? Oh, great. Hansel Dog and Teresa. Oh, Hansel Dog was a question mark. Oh, that's a technicality. Technicality. Okay, the point goes to Teresa. So close. In fact, you both get the point. So Teresa and Hansel Dog get the point only because of the question mark. you leave it flat. So Teresa and Hansel Dog gets that point. And flat is the correct answer. Also the same as horizontal. Point goes to Teresa and Hansel Dog. Point goes to Teresa and Hansel Dog. Or you prefer to go by Terry? I already forgot. So why do you have it flat? So the reason you want to have it flat is because what can happen is the varnish can dry and leave a drop. A drop. And that happens as well when you oil out a painting. You actually want to leave it flat. So you don't want to drop in your layer, especially if you varnish. But if it happens, it happens. It's not the end of the world. Your painting will be fine. Yes, correct. To avoid runs or for the drop. Yes, yes. Next question for 1 point. And I gotta pay a little more attention to the planes for his forehead because in perspective I had too much of his forehead. So I gotta focus on this for a second. Okay, so next question for 1 point. What is the blue oil paint that I changed my question. Okay, who can type the fastest? What is the most expensive blue oil paint that you can buy? The most expensive blue oil paint that you can buy. What is the most expensive blue oil paint that you can buy? This is one annoying thing about oil paint actually is the glare. So I'm gonna have to get a fan brush to fix that. But I think I got the plane correct now. All right, let's get a fan brush and fix that glare. I did say planes. I'd say planes a lot. And let's see if anyone can count how many times I say planes throughout this stream. Yeah, in addition to selling paintings, I will be selling t-shirts with different phrases. One of them will be planes, 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 planes. All right, so the point goes to Grace. Lapis lazuli is correct. The most expensive blue that you can buy. Lapis lazuli. I've never used it, but I will probably buy it at some point in my life. I will probably not buy the oil paint that is going to be ultramarine. That's a good one. I'm never going to buy this one particular oil paint that is... There's actually more than one answer to this. I learned it yesterday. But there's one oil paint or a couple that I will not buy that has a poison in it called arsenic. So for 1 point, who can type the fastest and who's been here enough to remember the answer or the multiple answers? Who's the fastest? Which oil paint has arsenic in it? Bob Ross oil paint has arsenic in it. No, I would hope that it didn't. And we're adding in some smaller planes. More subtlety now. All right, Giselle gets that one. Very close. Grace, very close. Orpiment. Orpiment has arsenic in it. That's a definite no-no. Definitely not. Alrighty. The point goes to Giselle. Remember, everyone, keep track of your point. Next up for 1 point. Why do you want to use sable brushes in oil painting? Why do you want to use sable brushes in oil painting? Oh yeah, you can still buy orpiment. Jeanette, not sure, that might be a typo. Orpiment, you can still buy it on Natural Pigments. I think you gotta custom order it. But I tell you one thing, you definitely don't want to buy anything with arsenic in it. Yeah, that could give you some legal trouble if you dump that somewhere where there's traces of arsenic picked up in your water. That might be some jail time. I'm not sure. Adding more cerulean blue to that halftone. Every plane change is the color change, is how I was taught to paint. So Grace said holds lots of paint. Giselle says holds more paint. Teresa says finer hair. Jeanette says softer. Alrighty, so these are all very valid answers. But the correct answer is actually a combination of everything that you said. So the point is going to be tough. Who gets the point? Ooh, it's going to be a split between Teresa and Grace. Only because Giselle and Grace said the same thing, but Grace said it first. So that point goes to Teresa and Grace. The answer is that sables, and I'm not at that stage yet in the painting where I need it, but sables can hold a lot more paint than a synthetic and still is soft enough to apply a fine touch. And the same can also be said with bristle brushes. These are bristle brushes. Oil painting is a much higher maintenance than any of the other paints that I've used. And that's because the brushes play a huge role. A huge role. Especially in subtle areas like this. You want the brush to hold a lot of paint but still apply a soft touch. You can get by with synthetics. You can just opt to use synthetic brushes. They won't hold as much paint, but you'll get by just fine. Hey, Jonas. How do you say something about perpendicular or away with planes? Well, planes determine the angle of the plane determines how light it is. Planes that are closer to perpendicular to the light, like this, perpendicular to the light source, will be lighter. Planes that are less perpendicular will be darker. Planes that are parallel to the light are going to be in the shadow. Planes, planes, and more planes. Plain to see. As we develop the subtleties on this one. So kind of in the style of a sergeant is what I was aiming for. But we did move quite fast in the beginning. So it's going to be kind of tough to do the next hour. We could just paint a second portrait. Just kidding. There's no way I'm going to do that. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. I could paint 3 portraits in 3 hours, but I'm not. All right, so next question for 1 point. What artist did Van Gogh live with? Van Gogh lived and shared his space with another artist. What is the name of that artist? Okay, point goes to Grace. Gauguin, Paul Gauguin. Paul Gauguin. Very close, Teresa and Joan. Very close. Okay, for 1 point, next up. What is the name of the particular style of painting that Caravaggio used that emphasized light and dark? For 1 point, what is the name of the style of painting that Caravaggio used that emphasized light and dark? Oh, close, Joan. Close. And I think that's probably a typo. Claire Obscura does sound like chiaroscuro. Kind of. I think that's a typo. Is it a typo? It could be just autocorrect. It could be autocorrect. But yes, chiaroscuro is the correct answer. So Grace gets that point. And Joan, let me know if that's a typo. If it's a autocorrect typo, then you also get that point. Chiaroscuro is the name of the style of painting that Caravaggio used that emphasized light and dark, which is actually what we're using right now. Chiaroscuro, that's what we're using. Chiaroscuro. All right, you can give yourself that point as well. Okay. Next up, for 1 point. Did John Singer Sargent ever get married? For 1 point. Did John Singer Sargent ever get married? All right, Jonah, you get that point. You said the right answer at the right time. You said no point for me and then no. But Jonah gets that point for the sergeant. John Singer Sargent did not get married. The life of a full-time artist is very, very, very difficult. But if you meet the right person, it can be much more fulfilling. If you can meet the right person that believes in you and supports you, uh, emotionally supports you. Sergeant, I think he is just on the move too much. But no, he didn't marry his model. That's what we don't know. He was very secretive. Okay. Next question for 1 point. Next question for 1 point. Rembrandt was named after a river. What is the name of the river that gave him his last name? I think it's a river. I might be wrong. But this is who can type the fastest. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a river. Yes, Rhine. That's where the name Rembrandt van Rijn came from. Jonah gets that point. Very, very close, Grace. Jonah gets that point. The River Van Rijn. I think it's a river. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Ooh, this brush is starting to fall apart. All these subtleties. Thanks, Jonas. Okay. Next question for 1 point. What? Let's see. Let's have this point be more about the way you word your comments. How do you define impressionism? For 1 point, how do you define impressionism? Okay. Hansel Duck said Monet. That's a good one. You get a point for the joke. You made me laugh. How do you define impressionism? Monet. Okay, you get a point for that because you made me laugh. Jonah gets the point. Paint the light you see. Correct. Of course, there's many different answers to it, but yes, it's all about the light, not about how loose a painting is. A lot of people think it's about how loose it is. Actually, it has nothing to do with how loose a painting is. It's the light. And we're gonna let this be vignette. We're not going to paint anything there. That's the style that I chose to do this in. Leaving a vignette. But of course I'll cover where the shoulder is eventually gonna be. So you wrote the color gives an impression of the view. No. Well, kind of, yeah. You're describing color, but yeah, it has to do with light. It has to do with describing the light. The use of light not realistic. That's funny. That's actually pretty funny. Okay, you're gonna have to guess this one because I don't think that there is an answer on the internet. This is more of an inside joke. So, Impressionist painters, now we know that they paint light. They describe it with color. So, what do Impressionist painters call, in a somewhat cynical way, what do Impressionist painters refer to in a somewhat negative way to painters that paint only with tonality? What do they call painters that only paint with tonality? And it's a negative term. And I heard that when I first started painting until someone pulled me over and said it's not really true. Overexposed photography. Oh man, Oscar, you get a good you get a point for that. You made me laugh. Oscar, you get a point. Thanks, Giselle. Thanks, Giselle. You be boring. So I got a text from Dion. Table 3 was covered. Oh wow, no jump or break practicing on the new table. Okay. I'm not really good at doing jump shots anyway. Stale. Jonah said Fauvist. This one is going to be very difficult unless somebody has studied with a Henry Henchy student. It's not a word you can just look up. Dark. No. No ivory black. All right. Since this question is next to impossible to answer unless you have inside knowledge or you've taken a workshop with a Henry Henshey student. Inanimate, no. So what Henry Henshey students used to refer to uh, painters that painted mainly with tonality and not color changes, they would refer to these painters as tonalists. Tonalist is the word that's slightly negative that certain Henry Henshey students, impressionist painters, would refer to basically every other painter in the world. Because let's face it, we all paint with values first, because that's how you get structure. Until thankfully, one of my teachers pulled me aside and said that's not really a thing. That's just kind of what certain Henry Henshey students say. So, tonalist. Next time you're hanging out with your paint friends and you call them a tonalist, it means, in a slightly derogatory term, that they don't know how to use color. That's what that means. Inside inside jokes. No one would I wouldn't expect really anyone to know that unless you studied with certain painters like John Ebersberger, to name one. Really great artist, but he's basically the one that would say that. And I think Henchy himself was the one that coined that term. Henry Henchy. Adding a little bit more green. So let me explain what I mean by every plane change is a color change. If anyone has not taken color study, it's a vastly different way of looking at the world. And when you study color study, you can't really unlearn or unsee the things that you see in the natural world. So basically, you don't think about the tonality or the tone that something has, and you just think about a shape of color in relation to another color. So this green is maybe more yellow than this, and this is more blue than this. This pink is maybe closer to the red, and this is closer to the orange. This yellowish color is maybe closer to the green, kind of cooler than this one. And it has nothing to do with temperature. Color study has nothing to do with temperature. It has everything to do with hues. And if all this sounds really overly complicated and unnecessary, it is. It is overcomplicated and unnecessary. You only want to do enough color study to understand that colors on a painting exist in relation to one another. And if you don't believe me, there's some optical illusions where you have like 4 squares of color and you take one of them away and it changes the way the other one looks. Optical illusions like that are pretty cool, pretty neat. But anyway, let's go back to more trivia. I think. Or is it break time? Wow, it's already 6 o'clock. Uh, yeah, we are at 20 seconds till the break. So yeah, we're gonna have to take a break. But Oscar wrote, Impressionism came into being in the advent of photography, where they laid claim that art beyond formal perfection. They appealed to the instant impression of the overload and plein air. Okay, yeah, I could see that. How that happens. Well, yeah, certainly. I could see that. Okay. So we are going to take a break and Let's see. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be who can type the fastest for 5 points. This is a big one. So for 5 points, who is going to write down the first 10 colors in the Studio Incominati palette? For 5 points during the break, who can list the first 10 colors? You need to write down the entire name of the color. Red is not a color. You need the exact red. So who can list 10 of the first colors on the Studio Incominati palette? For 5 points. That's a big one. So let's see who can type the fastest, or you can copy and paste it the fastest. Nemesis. Yeah, I can see that with Impressionism. Yeah, it was. Impressionism was a derogatory term back then. Okay, so for 5 points. So I'm going to take a break. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to. I'm going to take a break, eat some more spicy chicken, air fried spicy chicken, and I will be back. So don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to. Hopefully you'll enjoy the video of Hugo. Alrighty then. All right, welcome to the last hour of this painting. We're pretty much almost done with it, but we'll see if we can make this even more, uh, I guess, realistic in the next hour. Let's see what's going on here with the comments. Grace wrote lead, white, Naples, yellow, yellow ochre, Venetian red, cad yellow deep, cad yellow light, cad red light. Okay, so Grace definitely gets this one. Ultramarine, phthalo, raw umber, burnt umber, ivory black, alizarin crimson. Yep, 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 yep. 22 colors, and you see there, cad yellow light, cad yellow deep. They have cadmium red light, cadmium red deep. I think they also have cadmium red deep. Really, really unnecessary amount of colors there. And the reason is that Nelson Shanks, the founder of Studio Incaminati, studied color, did color study with Henry Henchy, and he incorporated that into his painting. And Henry Henchy, again, he's the artist that was speaking about every plane change is a color change, kind of like trying to radically change the way that we look and perceive color. The reason you want all those colors on your palette when you're doing color study is it's like keys to a piano. Keys to a piano. So your mixing becomes intuitive as you go across the entire color, all of the colors, basically. And you do need a vast color palette for that purpose, for color study. But in more refined paintings, you will find that a lot of the Studio Incaminati painters ended up taking some of those colors off. Like Carrie Dunn, he took some of those colors off, at least from my knowledge. Though, if I had the money, I personally would use all those colors. I'd have all those colors on my palette. This is a budget option here. Yupari's got to pay some bills, so Yupari's not going to go and spend all that money on 22 colors, especially if you're working with this kind of like Sargent style simplification. You actually don't end up using that many colors anyway. Though, you can create some pretty cool skin tones with unconventional colors, such as dioxazine purple and Indian yellow. Dioxazine purple, Indian yellow, and white can actually create some pretty interesting colors. You can get really, really neat looking neutrals when you're using a vast color palette like that. But you don't need it. It's not necessary. And in most cases can make things more complicated to people that are just getting into painting. Next question for 1 point. Where does lapis lazuli originally come from? Where does the pigment lapis lazuli originally come from? Grace, you're the first Monet in the first Impressionist exhibition called Impression Sunrise. A critical critic described them as impressionists. Yeah, I remember. That's in the documentary. For sure. For sure. So Jonah, it actually that could be true, or but Afghanistan is what they say online. That's where lapis lazuli comes from. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. If it also comes from India, then we can say it's in India. Wait, Afghanistan, India. It could actually be. But the point goes to Grace. And go ahead, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jonah, and then you can also take that point. I really like to use from another point. What is this color that is red and dark and transparent that's really useful for portraiture? What is the name of the color that's red, dark, transparent, and really useful for portraiture? For 1 point. Now we'll start to key the light. Yellow is a color you want to use very sparingly, but I'm going to use a little of the yellow. I still have some of the lead tin yellow on here. A little bit of cadmium green. All right, Grace is getting another point. Alizarin crimson or alizarin permanent. Hey, Colin, that could be. I'm actually not sure what the pigment number is for alizarin crimson. I'm not sure. But yes, alizarin crimson is the correct answer. Point goes to Grace. Transparent red oxide is actually a really good one too. Terry. Really good one also. But the one that I was thinking of was alizarin. That would have actually been a good answer as well. But Grace was just a little faster. Okay, next up. For 1 point. Hey, Carlos Shokri, thank you, thank you. For 1 point, 1 point. What is the original Zorn palette? Original. What is the original Zorn palette? What are the colors in the original Zorn palette? Now we're keying the lights a little bit, adding more sophistication into these colors. Ivory black, vermilion, yellow ochre, lead, white. Correct, correct, correct. Jonah gets that point. Correct, correct, correct. And you can still buy all of those. Well, basically the only exotic color there is vermilion, which is composed of mercury, and you can still buy that. Very close, Colin and Grace. Very close. Very, very close. Okay, so next for 1 point. What is the name of the John Singer Sargent portrait of a woman that was famous in her time? What is the name of the portrait painting that John Singer Sargent did of a woman that was famous during her time, and Sargent himself was known to seek her out to paint her portrait, which also led to a controversy? What is the name of that John Singer Sargent painting of a very famous woman during her time that led to a controversy? Madam X. Teresa is correct. There was a controversy over Madam X. Of course, another BBC documentary. I think it was BBC. That's where I got that information from. So Terry gets that point. Terry gets that point. Madam X. It was said that Sargent had to leave wherever he was living at the time, or something. I don't know if that's really true, but something like that, because of the controversy. Next point. Why was there a controversy over the Madame X painting? Why was there a controversy over the Madame X painting? For 1 point. Oh, he had to leave France. That's where he had to leave. So for another point, why was there a controversy over the Madame X? All right. Oh, very close, Teresa. It was the strap. It was the strap. Just because this one strap was down, it was the strap. Different times back then. Different times. And that was seen as very unprofessional to paint someone like that, of that status, and have a strap that's unstrapped. And during an exhibition of where there were obviously nude paintings there, so it has nothing to do with that. It was the strap. That's what they said. Oh man, Giselle gets a point. The other X-Men got mad. That's a good joke there. The other X-Men got mad. That's all right. Point for comedy goes to Giselle. The X-Men got mad. That's what happened with Sergeant. He wasn't thinking of the X-Men. That was a good one. All right. Next question for 1 point. Bob Ross painted in a style of painting that John Singer Sargent also used. What is the name of that style of painting? Bob Ross painted in the same style of painting that John Singer Sargent did. What is the name of that style of painting? All right, Jonah gets that point. Alla prima. That is the same approach that we're using here. Alla prima. And it's time to switch to the sable brush. We've gotten to that point now. We're going to use a sable brush. Alla prima was the correct answer. Jonah gets a point. Blissful and alla prima. Okay. That was a good one, but still only a chuckle, not a laugh. Okay, next. What is the name of the artist or the painter that was known to have had a roach, uh, the bug, a roach in one of his paintings? And this painting is well, I don't know if it's there anymore, but it used to be on display in the National Gallery of Art in DC. And you can actually see that there was a bug embedded in the paint. Oh, I don't know if Turner had one. So if you can, anyone can validate that Turner had that, then that can also be an answer. There's one specific painter that there was a roach, and I don't know if it was intentional. Robert Roach. Oh man, the chuckle again. Not a laugh. I'm a tough crowd. So again, if anyone can validate the Turner, then that'll be a point. And then I'll tell you who it was. At least that's what they tell me. It could be that it's not an actual bug. Oh, okay, Grace. No worries. Gainsbroach. Gainsbroach. Okay, that was more than a chuckle, so that's good. Gainsbroach. That's funny. Like Baroque, but Baroche. That's a good one. All right, so the artist is Jackson Pollock. In one of his wild paintings, a tour guide told us that there was a roach embedded in the paint. Now, it could be false, actually. I'm not sure. I don't know if they actually did an analysis of it. But there's definitely going to be more than one answer to that. I guess also, if that's true, then you can claim that point. But I don't know. I don't even know who that artist is. So I don't know. All right, so next, for 1 point, what was the name of John Singer Sargent's sister? He did a portrait of her. At least I think. I might be confusing him with someone. Yeah, it was embedded in the paint. Like it looked like the roach was just walking across the painting when Jackson Pollock was throwing the paint, and then the paint just landed on the roach, and it just kind of died a slow and miserable and painful death. Oh, thanks, Grace. Thank you for that comment. Yusuf will be really happy to know that. Hopefully, Yusuf is here. I'm not sure. I sent him the link. He's probably practicing his pool right now. Oh, okay. Yes, yes. Emily. So Giselle gets that point. So Giselle was the fastest to type. So close. So close, Grace. Oh, she painted also. Awesome. Okay. Thanks for all the likes, everyone. We're at 51. That's a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Okie dokie. Next point. Next point. Next question for 1 point. What is the name of the artist that is most likely to have killed you? What is the name of the artist that's most likely to have killed you? Hey Terry, you play pool too? Oh, awesome. Do you have a Fargo? Like a Fargo rating? Because this guy is like a 550 or something. I'm not sure. Which is really high Fargo rating. I think if that was APA, he'd probably be a 7. I'm not sure if you play APA, APL, or TAP. So do you play in any of the leagues, Terry? Yeah, I once saw him in practice break and run 3 10-ball racks in a row. Yusuf, this guy. Yeah, really, really talented young man. He's 31. Really talented young man. Okay, Giselle gets that one. Caravaggio. I know it was a typo. Caravaggio is the painter that is most likely to have killed you. Michelangelo Merisi de Caravaggio. Get on his wrong side, and you probably won't live to tell the tale. Oh, no problem, Terry. Yeah, leagues are a big thing in this area. Yeah, Tomasoni. He uh he neutralized Tomasoni. Next up for 1 point. Name one of the paints that Van Gogh liked to eat. Name one of the paints that Van Gogh liked to eat. For 1 point. Name one of the paints that Van Gogh liked to eat. Alder wrote blue. Grace, yellow ochre. I'm not sure if it was yellow ochre, but it might have been. Giselle said yellow. So if you can verify that he liked to eat yellow ochre, then you can get that point. It was a yellow. From the documentary, it was chrome yellow. I don't know if it was yellow ochre, and there could have been a blue. So Alder, if he did eat one of the blues, then you can give yourself the point. I will let you verify. Chrome yellow was the color that Simon Sharma said that he ate in one of his in his documentary. That's a really good Simon Sharma, The Power of Art. If you haven't seen that one, it's on YouTube. At least I hope it's still on YouTube. The actor that plays Van Gogh is like next level, like amazing. Yellow made him the happiest. Made him the happiest. Eh, there's the highlight in his eyes. I don't like them. I don't like the highlights there. I'm gonna take that out. Just says yellow. Yeah, it could have just been yellow. Hey, Helen. Let's see. So lost with cool and warm flesh tones. Quickly show where in the highlighted area the cool and the warm ones are. So Typically there are three color bands. So think about it. These color bands are like zones. So the forehead area is one zone. The nose and the cheek area is another zone. And the jaw area is another zone. So if you look at a lot of old master paintings, or even the more modern ones like Sargent, these zones typically have yellow on the forehead, pink or red around the cheeks and nose, green towards the jaw. So yellow, red, and green. Those are color zones that are not always the case. It depends on the light scenario, but the warmer colors, so the hues that are closer to the reds, typically are around the nose, the mouth, the ears. These are areas that have more of the warmer colors. The cooler colors tend to be kind of closer to the cheekbone area, like here, or the side plane of the forehead, or the parietal, temporal parietal region of the skull, right here. And I put cerulean blue there and sap green here. That's where your cooler colors tend to be. Also around the lips, towards the bottom, you tend to have some blues in there. Around the, here, I'll use it now. The sap green around the mouth. These are all just generalizations. It depends really on the environment. Suppose there was a neon blue light, like right here, then that would create like neon blue lights here and here and there, and that would make it a little different. But I appreciate the question, Helen. Thank you for asking. And hopefully that response helps. Alder, your cooler color reminds me of colors that start to depict going away. Atmospheric perspective, yeah, definitely. No problem, Helen. You're welcome here anytime. We'll be here all week. All right, next question for 1 point. And let's say what is, and this could be there's more than one answer to this. What is the point of using lead white in oil painting? What's the point of using lead white in oil painting for 1 point? Why use it at all? What's the point of using lead white in oil painting? Oh, thanks, Helen. Welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm glad you just discovered us. Thank you. Thank you. We're here Tuesday through Friday. So we do oil paintings on Wednesday, watercolors on Tuesday, acrylic on Thursday, Pastels on Friday. Pastels can vary between oil pastel and soft pastel. But mostly portraiture, though we could do some landscapes and still lives in the future too. It's better than titanium white. Oh man, that's a good one. That made me laugh. All right, guess I'll get the point for making me laugh. It's better than titanium white. Alder, yes, it does keep colors warmer. That is correct. And Grace said it makes it thicker. Jonah says sticky. And yes, it does hold warm tints better. But the point will go to Alder. Grace, it does make it thicker, but so does using more titanium white. But yes, one of the reasons for lead white is that it does keep the colors warmer and the subtleties. The other one is the one I usually say is you can use more of it without raising the value. But it does keep the warmer colors warmer. It is actually warmer than titanium white. And it does dry faster, Terry, that's true. The first person that answered it was Alder. Alder gets a point. Alder gets a point. So we've got 8 minutes till we have 10 minutes left. So subtle trivia will end in about 8 minutes. Okay. So next. Before odorless mineral spirits were used, what did oil painters use to thin out their paints and clean their brushes? Before odorless mineral spirits was invented, what did artists use to thin their paint and clean their brushes? All right. Ooh, very close between Grace and Giselle. Turpentine. And did you also know that spike lavender was already a thing back when people were using turpentine? Spike lavender was already a thing, so that would have also been an answer. Very close, but Grace gets that one. Yes, spike lavender would have been an answer as well, but the quickest to get to the keyboard or to the tablet was Grace. Okay, next up, for 1 point, in plein air painting, what is the name of the type of perspective that plein air painters need to know other than linear perspective? Other than linear perspective, what is the name of the type of perspective that plein air artists need to be aware of when painting plein air? And remember, all these paintings will be for sale. at some point. Well, of course, Yusuf will get the first choice if he wants this painting or not. But I will be selling these paintings soon on my Etsy. Oh, close, Ariel. Ariel is close, but not quite the name of it. At least not the one that I was told. Giselle, but very close. Alder gets that one. Atmospheric perspective. Naturalism perspective. Never heard of that one, but it could be a thing. I'm not sure. Atmospheric perspective is the type of perspective other than linear perspective that plein air artists need to know. Atmospheric perspective. Next question for 1 point. How do you define atmospheric perspective? For 1 point. How do you define atmospheric perspective? Now, 3-point perspective is also a linear perspective. That has to do with basically straight lines in three-dimensional space. So you wrote your color tones, cold versus warm. Well, not quite the definition of atmospheric perspective. Not quite. Your eyes, so Jeanette, you wrote your eyes move back in space. Not quite, not quite. Grace wrote effect atmosphere has on distant objects. Okay, I see a lot of Googling going on. Appearance of atmosphere on things from a distance. Yes, that is part of the answer. Aerial perspective is the same as atmospheric. All right. So that means Grace also gets that point back when I asked aerial versus atmospheric. So Giselle also gets that point. In addition to the funny art jokes. Okay, so that means Giselle gets that point. It's easier to spell fast too. Okay. Yeah, always feel free to correct me. I don't know everything. I really don't. So always feel free to correct me. All right, so atmospheric perspective, how it relates to plein air painting is a very simple concept that does have to do with distance. So things that get further away from us get cooler than things that are closer to us. Things that are closer to us appear warmer. Things that are further away from us appear lighter than things that are closer to us. We used that effect when we painted the Distant Mountains live stream. I don't know, like four years ago now. Atmospheric perspective. So the closest to the answer to that, appearance of atmosphere on things from a distance, is ooh, that's close between Graith and Giselle. Affect atmosphere. But no one quite got the cool colors and the warm, and the values, the effect it has on values. So that point I think goes to me. Just kidding. Um, that one was a tough one. That one I don't think is that easy to Google. So these are things that I was taught about painting that aren't necessarily that easy to look up on the internet. Okay, next up, a repeat of previous question from the past. Nelson Shanks painted a really, really old person. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in the sense that there's so much structure on this older model that Nelson painted. What is the name of the Nelson Shanks painting featuring the oldest looking model in his paintings? And yes, there is a big ear in that painting. But no, that's not what Nelson titled. He didn't title it Big Ear. Yes, it's the one with the big ear. I had an idea. I've got an idea here. And we got 53 likes so far, so I think we're doing something right. Um, I'm going to submit some paintings. I think you can submit 3 of them to the Portrait Society of America. I think I'm going to submit this one. And I'll let you know. Chances are I probably won't get in because I'm not like a big name brand painter, but I'll let you know. I've got already some paintings that I've some really finished studio paintings that I'll submit to the Portrait Society. But I'll submit this one and let you know. It'd be pretty neat if this got one of their like merits of honor or whatever. Then you can say that you were with me during the painting of something that got an award. Let's see if we can get an award for this one. It doesn't always happen, but the cards fell right with the start of this painting. So everything just happened to work out pretty well with this one. I don't usually paint at this level, I don't think, but things just happened to work out with this one. So I think I will submit this one to the Portrait Society of America, along with my more finished studio stuff. Because it has that like freshness, like the From Life kind of look, even though it's not From Life. It's got the little like Sargent simplification that I know that the Portrait Society likes. Thanks, Grace. Thanks. Yeah, I'll submit it. I'll keep you updated on what they say about this one. So that Nelson Shanks painting that I'm talking about is called Mr. Fitting. Mr. Fitting is what it's called. So yeah, I'll submit this to the Portrait Society along with some more finished ones. Then I'll let you know what they say. But that would be pretty neat to paint something here that would make it to the Portrait Society. But we don't need an award to know that, we did our best. But ever since I started playing pool, I didn't play competitive sports as a kid. So every time I got rejected by competitions in art, it kind of hurt my feelings. But I'm so used to like putting my feelings aside now when I play pool that like I don't think it'll bother me as much. No, I want to, so Jeanette, I want to leave this as it's a stylistic choice to leave it that way. I'm doing that on purpose. His neck's also a little bit longer. That's on purpose. So it goes with the tilt of the head. So yeah, all of this is on purpose. Um, because it's supposed to have that look to it, that aesthetic. Maybe I had a level up. I'm not sure, Helen, but I think I attribute what I just did here today to have something to do with the all the other materials I've been doing. Well, it's already been 3 hours. All right, everyone, count your points. Count your points. Let's see who got the most points. I think Giselle got a lot of points this time, along with making me laugh the most. So yeah, I'll let Yusuf know that I'll be submitting this one to competitions. Might as well start doing that with these paintings. So yeah, I don't always paint at this level. But this was definitely... Everything fell right in the beginning. Fell into place correctly. So we're going to go a little over 3 hours. Just because this one has to be a little bit more refined for the Portrait Society. But even things like that, like, these are stylistic choices that are going to directly impact the way that jurors are going to see the painting. Leaving things like that, these are stylistic choices that are going to directly impact the way a juror is going to look at the painting. Competitions are not always about how realistic something is. At least I don't think so. But yeah, we'll get this one a pretty nice frame. Now we're just softening a few things that I don't want to be sharp. And who knows, maybe we'll get an award and you can say you were there. Or you watched how it was painted on YouTube. Everything was a stylistic choice, even this, leaving it like that. Thanks, Mary. Grace got 17. Whoa. Thanks for complimenting Grace. I think you were complimenting Grace. Seems lighter in source. Dark shadow in the back of the neck is also on purpose. Yes, this is on purpose, or else this would be kind of a floating head syndrome. So this angle right here, I wanted it to be more visible to avoid the floating head. So this kind of gives a certain compositional effect to the painting that I like. And of course, we're going to have to sign it. And the bottom here, we're going to have to cover it. So you can't quite see it, but I'm covering the bottom part of that. And I left room to sign. I don't really want to sign here, but I think I should. Signing up here might be better though. I think I'll sign up here for the main diagonal of the composition. Signing kind of, I hate signing to be honest, but kind of important to sign it. So thanks for all the likes, everyone. We got 54. If anyone is watching and didn't like yet, we're only 6 away from 60. So I think 60 would be like a record for me during a live stream. To get 60 likes. That'd be pretty cool. In case anyone hasn't left a like, I'm going to be signing the painting now. So it looks like matchmaker portraits. It looks like 17 points for Grace. Giselle, how many points did you get? I think you think you got a lot this time. Okay, I'm gonna need the maul stick, or I can use part of my tripod. This is the leg that broke off of my tripod. You can see the little handle here. So I'm gonna use this for a maul stick. And if it does get an award, then this is it'll probably raise the price. I hate signing. All right. I used 24 because obviously I wasn't alive in 1924, and I won't be alive in 2124. So, of course, it's 2024. We shall see. Grace is undefeated. Grace is undefeated. Undefeated champion of subtlety. Subtle trivia. So yeah, this one went. This is the longest I think actually that we've painted. I gotta make sure that that doesn't look like a bullseye. The way that you stylize things is completely up to you, but a lot of times there's not really a way to teach it. You just, I mean, obviously I knew the convention of main triangle from top left to bottom right, but the way that we choose to have these edges soft, soft, sharp, sharp, not so sharp, like information here is like really there's a lot of information here, a lot of information here, not so much here. The way that you do that is really something you can't teach. It's just a matter of feel. May I think May is well, I won't give anything away, but yeah, so thanks for all the likes. We were just 4 away. We're just 4 likes away from 60. But oh, okay. Now we are. I can't count. That was 6. So now we're 5 away from 60. So, okay, 3 away from 60. 3 away from 60. I'm gonna stand and double check. Any last things that I want to edit? We're 3 away from 60. So let's see if we can get 60 likes before we head out. We are 3 away from 60. So let's see what everyone thinks. Three likes away from 60. Let's see if this guy can influence anything. See if you can recognize the ears. Wondering, what are we doing here? He's looking at my paintings. He's judging the painting. What does he have to say about the painting? This guy. I woke him up. He was sleeping. Alrighty. So we almost made it. We almost made it to the 60. We're 3 away. But that's okay. I'll see if Hugo can say hello to everyone before we go. Let's see if I can connect the palette camera. There's good old Hugo. Hugo. Oh, I can't control this camera. Hugo, say hello. There's his paw. Man, I don't know how to control this camera. Let's see. Get Hugo to say hello. There you go. There's Hugo. Hugo, say hello. There's his eye. Good old Hugo. Yeah. That was the palette camera for acrylic. I forgot that I had it ultra zoomed in. Just some fun after the stream. Alrighty, so thank you so much, everyone. Anyone that may be new, remember that this schedule is Tuesday through Friday. Tuesday is watercolor. Wednesday is oil paint. Thursday is acrylic. And Friday is pastel. Thank you all so much. I wish you the very best. And I'll see you tomorrow.